Your grandmother's recipe box holds secrets that modern food bloggers would kill for. These are the 25 forgotten side dishes you could only find in old cookbooks, each one a time capsule of flavors that once defined American home cooking. Cottage cheese JellO salad. Back in the 1950s, if you didn't have a molded salad shimmering on your dinner table, you weren't really hosting. Cottage cheese JellO salad was the crown jewel of gelatin cuisine, combining lime or lemon JellO with cottage cheese, chopped celery, and sometimes pineapple chunks. The mixture was poured into ring molds and chilled until it achieved that perfect wobble that made hostesses proud. This dish represented everything about mid-century entertaining. It was make-ahead convenient, visually impressive, and used modern processed ingredients that symbolized prosperity. The creamy cottage cheese created interesting textures against the smooth gelatin, while the celery added a satisfying crunch. Many recipes called for mayonnaise or whipped cream to be folded in, creating layers of flavor that were both refreshing and substantial. Today's health-conscious cooks might wrinkle their noses at the sugar content, but back then, this salad was considered a virtuous choice, packed with protein and calcium. Macaroni and tomatoes. Before mac and cheese became the default pasta comfort food, macaroni and tomatoes ruled American kitchens. This simple dish combined elbow macaroni with stewed tomatoes, onions, and often a touch of sugar to balance the acidity. The result was a tangy, satisfying side dish that complemented everything from fried chicken to pot roast. The beauty of this dish lay in its simplicity and economy. During the Depression era, it stretched expensive ingredients with inexpensive pasta, while the tomatoes provided essential vitamins and minerals. Many families had their own variations. Some added green peppers, others included bacon fat for richness. The dish was often baked in the oven to create a slightly crispy top, transforming it from a simple stovetop side into something special. The tomatoes would break down during cooking, creating a sauce that coated each piece of pasta perfectly. Celery Victor. Named after the chef Victor Hertzler of San Francisco's St. Francis Hotel, Celery Victor was the sophisticated side dish that brought restaurant elegance to home dining rooms. This wasn't just chopped celery in a salad, it was whole celery hearts, braised until tender, then chilled and dressed with a vinaigrette that often included anchovy paste and capers. The dish required technique and timing. The celery had to be cooked just until tender while maintaining its structure, then properly chilled to absorb the complex flavors of the dressing. Many recipes called for the celery to be tied with kitchen twine during cooking to maintain its shape. The final presentation was stunning. Pale green celery hearts fanned out on a platter, glistening with oil and vinegar, often garnished with hard-boiled eggs or pimento strips. This was fine dining at home, requiring both skill and patience that modern cooks rarely invest in vegetable preparation. Pineapple cheese salad. The marriage of pineapple and cheese might seem odd to modern palates, but pineapple cheese salad was a staple at church potlucks and family gatherings throughout the mid-20th century. This molded salad combined crushed pineapple with cream cheese, sometimes adding chopped nuts or marshmallows for texture and sweetness. The dish represented the American fascination with exotic ingredients made accessible through canning technology. Pineapple was still considered luxurious and tropical, while cream cheese was a modern convenience that made entertaining easier. The salad was typically molded in decorative shapes and served on lettuce leaves, often garnished with maraschino cherries or additional pineapple rings. The sweet-tangy flavor combination was refreshing and different, offering a palate cleanser between heavier dishes. Many recipes included gelatin to help the salad hold its shape, creating a firm texture that could be sliced and served individually. Potato puff bake. Potato puff bake was the elegant answer to everyday mashed potatoes, combining cooked potatoes with eggs and cream to create a light, airy casserole that puffed beautifully in the oven. This dish required technique and timing to achieve the perfect texture, creamy on the inside with a golden, slightly crispy exterior. The secret to perfect potato puffs was using the right type of potatoes and properly preparing them. The potatoes were typically boiled until very tender, then mashed while still hot and combined with butter, cream, and beaten eggs. The mixture needed to be smooth and free of lumps, then seasoned carefully with salt, pepper, and sometimes herbs. The casserole was baked in a hot oven until it puffed up and turned golden brown, creating a dramatic presentation that impressed guests. Many recipes called for piping the mixture through a pastry bag to create individual servings or decorative shapes. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at formal dinners and holiday meals, proving that potatoes could be elegant and sophisticated. Creamed peas on toast points. Creamed peas on toast points was the epitome of elegant comfort food, combining tender peas in a rich cream sauce served over triangular pieces of toasted bread. This dish elevated simple ingredients into something special through proper technique and careful presentation. The key to perfect creamed peas was creating a smooth, velvety sauce that complemented rather than overwhelmed the delicate pea flavor. The peas were typically cooked until just tender, then combined with a white sauce made from butter, flour, and cream. The sauce needed to be cooked carefully to prevent lumps and achieve the perfect consistency. Many recipes included seasonings like fresh herbs, a touch of nutmeg, or even a splash of sherry for sophistication. The toast points were cut from day-old bread and toasted until golden, then arranged on serving plates before being topped with the cream peas. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at brunch tables and ladies' luncheons, proving that simple ingredients could create something truly elegant. Mock oyster casserole. During times when oysters were expensive or unavailable, resourceful cooks created mock oyster casserole using eggplant as the star ingredient. The eggplant was diced and seasoned with herbs, breadcrumbs, and sometimes a touch of seafood seasoning to mimic the briny flavor of real oysters. The result was a savory casserole that satisfied cravings for something rich and oceanic. This dish showcased the ingenuity of American home cooks who could transform humble vegetables into something special. The eggplant was typically salted and drained to remove bitterness, then combined with onions, celery, and plenty of butter. Some recipes included hard-boiled eggs or even a small amount of canned oysters to enhance the seafood flavor. The casserole was baked until golden and bubbly, creating a texture that was surprisingly similar to traditional oyster dressing. It was particularly popular in inland areas where fresh seafood was scarce, but the desire for coastal flavors remained strong. Corn pudding casserole. Long before cornbread became the go-to corn side dish, American kitchens were filled with the sweet, custard-like aroma of corn pudding casserole. This dish transformed humble corn kernels into something magical through the alchemy of eggs, milk, and slow baking. The result was a cross between a souffle and a custard, with a golden top that cracked slightly as it cooled. What made this dish special was its versatility. Some cooks added sugar for a dessert-like quality, while others incorporated herbs and cheese for a more savory approach. The texture was key. When done right, it was creamy in the center, with a slightly firm top that held its shape when scooped. Regional variations included adding bacon bits, green onions, or even a touch of bourbon. The dish required patience and skill to prevent curdling, making it a point of pride for accomplished home cooks who mastered the technique. Golden Glow Carrot Salad. Golden Glow carrot salad was the sunshine on Depression-era tables, combining grated carrots with gelatin to create a molded salad that was both nutritious and visually stunning. The carrots were typically mixed with crushed pineapple and suspended in orange or lemon gelatin, creating a dish that glowed like liquid gold when unmolded. This salad represented the ingenuity of home cooks who could make healthy eating appealing and attractive. The carrots provided essential vitamins and minerals, while the pineapple added sweetness and tropical flair. The gelatin not only helped the salad hold its shape, but also made it feel more substantial and special. Many recipes included chopped nuts or coconut for additional texture and flavor. The salad was typically molded in decorative shapes and served on lettuce leaves, often garnished with additional pineapple or a dollop of mayonnaise. The sweet-tangy flavor combination was refreshing and different, offering a healthy alternative to heavier side dishes. Cucumber and sour cream slaw. Long before coleslaw became synonymous with mayonnaise-based dressings, cucumber and sour cream slaw, offered a lighter, more refreshing alternative. This dish combined thinly sliced cucumbers with shredded cabbage and a dressing made from sour cream, vinegar, and herbs. The result was a cooling side dish that was perfect for hot summer days. The key to this slaw was proper preparation of the vegetables. The cucumbers and cabbage needed to be sliced thin enough to absorb the dressing, but thick enough to maintain some crunch. Many recipes called for salting the vegetables first to draw out excess moisture, then rinsing and patting them dry before adding the dressing. The sour cream dressing was typically flavored with dill, chives, or other fresh herbs, creating a tangy, cooling effect that complemented rich main dishes. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at picnics and barbecues, providing a refreshing contrast to heavier grilled foods. Sour cream noodle bake. Sour cream noodle bake was the comfort food casserole that brought Eastern European flavors to American kitchens. Wide egg noodles were combined with sour cream, cottage cheese, and seasonings, then baked until golden and bubbly. The result was a rich, creamy side dish that complemented everything from roast beef to fried chicken. This dish represented the melting pot of American cuisine, combining traditional European techniques with readily available American ingredients. The noodles were typically cooked until just tender, then combined with a mixture of sour cream, cottage cheese, and eggs to create a custard-like base. Many recipes included onions, herbs, or even a touch of paprika for additional flavor. The casserole was baked until the top was golden and the center was set, creating a dish that was both comforting and sophisticated. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at potluck dinners and family gatherings, proving that simple ingredients could create something truly special. Chili cheese rice squares. Chili cheese rice squares brought southwestern flavors to the casserole dish, combining cooked rice with cheese, chilies, and eggs to create a firm, sliceable side dish that was perfect for buffets and potluck dinners. The rice was typically mixed with beaten eggs and cheese, then baked until set and golden. This dish represented the growing popularity of Mexican-inspired flavors in American cooking. The rice was cooked with broth for extra flavor, then combined with cheese, diced green chilies, and beaten eggs to create a custard-like base. Many recipes included seasonings like cumin, chili powder, or garlic to enhance the southwestern flavors. The mixture was baked in a rectangular pan until set, then cut into squares for serving. The finished dish had a firm texture that held its shape well, making it perfect for buffet-style serving. This was the kind of side dish that added excitement to ordinary meals and showed how international flavors were being embraced by American home cooks. Buttered parsley potatoes. Before loaded baked potatoes and fancy potato gratins, buttered parsley potatoes were the epitome of elegant simplicity. Small new potatoes were boiled until tender, then tossed with butter and fresh parsley, creating a side dish that was both rustic and refined. The key was using the right potatoes and not overcooking them. The beauty of this dish was in its restraint. The potatoes were typically left whole or cut into uniform pieces, then cooked in salted water until they were tender but still held their shape. The butter was added while the potatoes were still hot, allowing it to melt and coat each piece evenly. Fresh parsley was essential. Dried simply couldn't provide the bright, fresh flavor that made this dish special. Some cooks added a touch of garlic or lemon juice, but the classic version relied on the quality of its few ingredients. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at formal dinners and holiday meals, proving that sometimes the simplest preparations are the most memorable. Sweet and sour red cabbage. Sweet and sour red cabbage brought German-inspired flavors to American tables, combining shredded red cabbage with a tangy sweet sauce made from vinegar, sugar, and often apples. This dish was slowly braised until the cabbage was tender and the flavors had melded together, creating a complex side dish that complemented rich meats perfectly. The dish required patience and technique. The cabbage needed to be shredded finely and cooked slowly to develop its deep, complex flavors. The balance between sweet and sour was crucial. Too much vinegar made it harsh, while too much sugar made it cloying. Many recipes included apples, which added natural sweetness and helped create the characteristic characteristic thick sauce. Some cooks added bacon or onions for additional flavor depth. The finished dish had a beautiful deep purple color and a glossy appearance that made it as visually appealing as it was delicious. This was the kind of side dish that appeared at holiday meals and special occasions, proving that cabbage could be elegant and sophisticated. Scalloped cabbage bake. Cabbage was the workhorse vegetable of American kitchens, and scalloped cabbage bake elevated this humble ingredient to company-worthy status. Layers of thinly sliced cabbage were alternated with a creamy sauce, often made with milk, flour, and butter, then baked until tender and golden. The result was a comforting side dish that transformed cabbage from peasant food to something elegant. The key to success was properly preparing the cabbage. It needed to be sliced thin enough to cook evenly, but thick enough to maintain some texture. Many recipes called for pre-cooking the cabbage briefly to remove excess moisture and bitterness. The cream sauce was crucial, often flavored with herbs like thyme or sage, and sometimes enriched with cheese. The top was typically finished with breadcrumbs and extra butter, creating a golden crust that contrasted beautifully with the creamy interior. This dish proved that with proper technique, even the most basic vegetables could become something memorable. Rice ring with creamed vegetables. The rice ring with creamed vegetables was the showstopper of 1950s entertaining, combining two dishes into one impressive presentation. Rice was cooked with broth and seasonings, then packed into a ring mold and unmolded onto a serving platter. The center was filled with creamed vegetables, typically peas, carrots, or mixed vegetables in a rich white sauce. This dish required both technical skill and timing. The rice had to be cooked perfectly, not too dry or too wet, and packed firmly into the mold while still warm. The creamed vegetables needed to be prepared with just the right consistency to fill the center without spilling over. Many recipes called for adding eggs or cheese to the rice mixture to help it hold its shape. The white sauce for the vegetables was typically made with butter, flour, and milk, creating a rich, velvety texture that complemented the rice perfectly. This was the kind of dish that made hostesses feel accomplished and impressed guests with its restaurant-quality presentation. Hot bacon spinach salad. Hot bacon spinach salad was the bridge between cold salads and warm side dishes, combining fresh spinach leaves with a hot bacon dressing that wilted the greens just enough to create the perfect texture. The bacon was cooked until crispy, then the rendered fat was used to make a warm dressing with vinegar and seasonings. This dish required timing and technique to execute properly. The spinach had to be perfectly cleaned and dried, then arranged in a serving bowl. The bacon was cooked until crispy, then removed and crumbled. The hot bacon fat was combined with vinegar, sugar, and seasonings to create a warm emulsion that was immediately poured over the spinach. The heat from the dressing wilted the spinach slightly, while the bacon added smoky, salty flavor. Many recipes included hard-boiled eggs or sliced mushrooms for additional texture and flavor. This was the kind of side dish that impressed guests with its restaurant-quality presentation and complex flavors. Tomato aspic with celery and olives. Tomato aspic with celery and olives was the sophisticated savory gelatin dish that graced elegant dinner tables throughout the mid-20th century. This molded salad combined tomato juice with unflavored gelatin, then enhanced it with diced celery, olives, and sometimes hard-boiled eggs for a complex, satisfying side dish. Creating perfect tomato aspic required skill and attention to detail. The tomato juice needed to be properly seasoned with herbs, onion, and sometimes a touch of Worcestershire sauce to create a flavorful base. The gelatin had to be dissolved completely and combined at the right temperature to ensure proper setting. The vegetables needed to be diced uniformly and added at the right moment to prevent them from sinking or floating. Many recipes called for layering different ingredients to create visual interest when sliced. The finished aspic was typically garnished with mayonnaise and fresh herbs, creating a presentation that was both beautiful and delicious. This was the kind of dish that impressed guests and made hostesses feel accomplished. Pear salad with cheese and mayo. Pear salad with cheese and mayo represented the height of elegant entertaining, combining sweet pears with savory cheese and creamy mayonnaise. The pears were typically canned halves, arranged on lettuce leaves and filled with a mixture of cream cheese and mayonnaise, then garnished with chopped nuts or cherries. This dish required attention to presentation and quality ingredients. The pears needed to be perfectly ripe and well drained to prevent the salad from becoming watery. The cheese mixture was typically made with cream cheese, mayonnaise, and sometimes a touch of lemon juice to prevent browning. Many recipes called for adding chopped nuts, olives, or dried fruit to the cheese mixture for additional texture and flavor. The salad was typically served on individual plates with lettuce leaves as a base, creating an elegant presentation that was perfect for luncheons and special occasions. This was the kind of dish that made hostesses feel sophisticated and impressed guests with its restaurant-quality appearance. Stewed zucchini with tomatoes. Stewed zucchini with tomatoes was the garden-to-table side dish that made the most of summer's bounty. Fresh zucchini was slowly cooked with ripe tomatoes, onions, and herbs until all the flavors melded together into a rustic, flavorful dish. This was home cooking at its finest, using simple ingredients to create something deeply satisfying. The dish required timing and technique to prevent the zucchini from becoming mushy, while ensuring all the flavors combined properly. The zucchini was typically cut into chunks and sautéed with onions until just tender, then combined with fresh or canned tomatoes and herbs like basil or oregano. Many recipes called for adding garlic or green peppers for additional flavor complexity. The dish was slowly simmered until the vegetables were tender and the sauce had thickened slightly, creating a rustic texture that was perfect for serving alongside grilled meats or crusty bread. This was the kind of side dish that celebrated the seasons and showcased the quality of fresh, local ingredients. Watergate Salad. Watergate salad earned its mysterious name during the political scandal era, but its appeal was no secret. This fluffy green dessert salad combined pistachio pudding mix with whipped topping, marshmallows, and nuts to create a dish that was part side dish, part dessert, and completely irresistible. The dish represented the convenience cooking revolution of the 1970s, using instant pudding mix and frozen whipped topping to create something that looked and tasted homemade. The pistachio pudding provided both flavor and the characteristic green color, while the marshmallows added sweetness and texture. Many recipes included chopped pecans or walnuts for crunch, and some added coconut for additional flavor. The salad was typically chilled until set, then served in decorative bowls or molded into shapes. This was the kind of dish that appeared at potluck dinners and holiday gatherings, proving that convenience foods could create something truly special when combined with creativity and enthusiasm. Baked cheese grits. Casserole. Baked cheese grits. Casserole transformed the humble southern staple into a company-worthy side dish that could hold its own on any dinner table. Regular grits were cooked with milk and butter, then enriched with cheese and eggs before being baked until golden and puffed. The result was a creamy, sophisticated dish that showcased the versatility of corn grits. This dish required understanding the proper technique for cooking grits without lumps, then knowing how to transform them into a casserole that would hold its shape when served. The grits were typically cooked slowly with plenty of liquid, stirring constantly to prevent lumps. Once smooth and creamy, they were enriched with butter, milk, and cheese. Then beaten eggs were folded in to create a custard-like texture. Many recipes included seasonings like garlic powder, cayenne pepper, or herbs. The casserole was baked until the top was golden and the center was set, creating a dish that was both comforting and elegant. This was the kind of side dish that could elevate a simple meal into something special. Stone soup. Stone soup is more than just a forgotten recipe. It's a culinary treasure buried in the yellowed pages of grandmother's cookbooks. This dish evolved from folklore into a practical meal solution documented in Depression-era recipe collections. When homemakers faced empty pantries during America's economic collapse, dusty cookbooks revealed how simple water could transform into nourishment. Starting with just water and vegetable remnants, old cookbook instructions directed cooks to gently simmer onions, carrots, and potato trimmings until their flavors melded together. a pinch of herbs preserved from summer gardens, some root vegetable ends for substance, and perhaps a saved bone if fortune smiled. All were detailed in those weathered recipe pages to create broths that sustained communities. Today, while modern cookbooks feature elaborate ingredients lists, these forgotten recipes remind us of culinary economy. A contemporary version might cost around $3.50 and serves 8 people, approximately 50 cents per serving. In every spoonful of these rediscovered preparations, there's heritage, a connection to culinary traditions nearly lost to time. The recipe for stone soup endures in those cherished old cookbooks as evidence of kitchen wisdom, where every ingredient had purpose and every meal told a story. Fried rabbit. Back when every farm had a rabbit hutch, Sunday dinner often meant fried rabbit on the table. Farmers raised rabbits because they were efficient protein producers, requiring little space and eating kitchen scraps. The meat was tender and mild, much like chicken, but with a slightly gamier flavor. Farm wives would soak the rabbit pieces in buttermilk overnight, then dredge them in seasoned flour before frying in hot lard. The result was golden, crispy pieces that fed a family of 8 for pennies. Children would fight over the tender back legs, while adults savored the rich, dark meat from the thighs. The liver was never wasted. It was quickly fried and served as a delicacy to the head of the household. Today's squeamishness about eating rabbit seems foreign to those who understood that good food came from the land, not the store. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Thin slices of beef from glass jars transformed into a hearty breakfast with thick, creamy white sauce. Skillful home cooks would occasionally smoke the meat, adding delightful BBQ flavor. Cayenne pepper offered a spicy kick, reminding diners of days when they sprinkled it on steaks rather than toast. During times when comfort food was scarce, this dish provided wonderful sustenance and satisfaction. Though typically seen in middle to upper middle class households due to beef's expense, this meal became a special treat worth savoring. The combination of savory meat and velvety sauce created perfect harmony on crisp toast. Each bite delivered rich, satisfying flavor that lingered pleasantly. The simplicity belied its complex taste profile, making it a cherished breakfast tradition. Though modern breakfasts have largely replaced it, many still remember the distinct pleasure of this classic dish. The contrast between the crunchy toast and silky sauce created textural magic that kept families returning for more. It was affordable luxury during difficult times, bringing warmth and nourishment when needed most. Potato peel soup. Second is the remarkably resourceful potato peel soup, a creation born from hardship that's now nearly vanished from our culinary consciousness. Hidden within the yellowed pages of grandmother's tattered recipe collections, this testament to wartime ingenuity transforms what most modern cooks discard into a surprisingly filling meal. This remarkably simple dish, little more than seasoned water transformed into broth with discarded potato skins, reveals our ancestors' resourcefulness during lean times. What makes this forgotten classic truly remarkable isn't its flavor profile, but its astonishing ability to satisfy hunger for extended periods. Similar to how modern diners feel surprisingly full after a bowl of oatmeal, potato peel soup leverages the substantial fiber content concentrated in potato skins. Approximately half the vegetable's total fiber resides in the peels alone. This humble recipe earned its place in old cookbooks precisely because it sustained families when resources were scarce, effectively suppressing appetite when food was limited. While created from necessity rather than culinary ambition, this forgotten dish reminds us how traditional wisdom found value in what modern kitchens typically discard. Salt pork. Before refrigeration, salt pork was survival food that kept families fed through long winters. Farmers would cure pork belly in coarse salt, creating a product that could last months in the cellar. Salt pork wasn't just an ingredient, it was the foundation of countless farmer dinners. Thick slices were fried until crispy, then used to flavor beans, vegetables, and stews. The rendered fat was liquid gold, used for cooking everything from cornbread to vegetables. A typical salt pork dinner might include thick slices fried crispy, served alongside boiled potatoes and greens that had been cooked in the pork fat. The meat was incredibly salty and rich, requiring careful balance with other ingredients. Farm families knew exactly how much salt pork to use to flavor a pot of beans without overwhelming them. The skill lay in knowing when the pork had rendered enough fat to flavor the dish without making it too greasy. Hungarian chicken peppercach. Bold, comforting, and built on just a handful of ingredients that transformed into something far greater than their sum. Starting with bone-in chicken pieces, browned until skin crisped, filling the kitchen with mouth-watering aroma. Thinly sliced onions sautéed to golden perfection created the foundation for the star ingredient. Generous handfuls of paprika that turned everything deep red and earthy. Some added garlic for extra depth, others kept it simple. A touch of flour thickened the sauce before water or broth loosened it to perfect consistency. Just before serving, rich sour cream swirled and created velvety, luxurious texture that coated every bite. Typically served over wide egg noodles, perfectly designed for soaking up every drop of the magnificent sauce. Some garnished with parsley for freshness. Most let the dish's inherent flavors shine unadorned. This wasn't about presentation, but about delivering deep, smoky, tangy heartiness that satisfied completely. It fed families, warmed bellies, and created lasting food memories long after plates were cleaned. Breaded veal cutlets. Thin, crispy, and golden, quick to cook, quick to please. You took an inexpensive veal slice, dipped it sequentially in flour, egg, then breadcrumbs, and gently placed it in a hot skillet. The satisfying sizzle announced the beginning of culinary magic as the crust formed rapidly while the meat inside remained tender. Though not thick or particularly juicy, these cutlets delivered delightful crunch, remarkable flavor, and unexpected elegance, especially when payday remained distant. The breadcrumb coating absorbed seasonings beautifully, making each bite taste like dedicated effort, despite the quick preparation. Alongside, a perfect scoop of instant mashed potatoes, creamy, fluffy, and steaming hot, with golden butter melting enticingly on top, completed the meal. Sometimes gravy appeared, sometimes not, but the cutlets stood proudly either way. For families balancing time constraints, financial limitations, and hungry mouths, this dinner consistently delivered satisfaction and contentment. The contrast between crisp exterior and tender center created textural perfection that elevated this simple dish to mealtime favorite. Molasses baked beans. Saturday night meant baked beans in farmhouses across America. These weren't the quick-cooking beans of today, but a slow, all-day process that filled the house with the smell of molasses and pork. Farmers would start with dried navy beans, soaking them overnight before combining them with chunks of salt pork, molasses, brown sugar, and mustard. The mixture went into a heavy pot and baked in the oven for 6 to 8 hours. The result was beans with a thick, dark sauce that was both sweet and savory. Families served them with brown bread and coleslaw, creating a meal that was both filling and economical. The beans were often started on Friday evening, slow cooking through Saturday to be ready for Saturday night dinner. Leftover beans were served cold for Sunday breakfast or reheated for weeknight dinners. The dish was so associated with farm life that city dwellers often called it country beans. Salmon patties with cream peas. Salmon patties with cream peas were a weeknight dinner classic, especially during the 1940s and 1950s when fresh fish was hard to find or prohibitively expensive. Canned salmon provided an affordable, shelf-stable protein source that could be transformed into something special. These patties combined salmon with breadcrumbs, egg, and seasonings, then were fried in butter or oil until golden brown. The crispy exterior contrasted beautifully with the soft interior, turning humble pantry ingredients into a satisfying hot meal. What elevated this dish was the creamed peas, a white sauce made with flour, butter, and milk, poured over everything, softening the patties and adding rich, diner-style comfort. The combination was warm, creamy, and surprisingly filling. Most importantly, this unpretentious dish could feed a family of 5 with just 1 can of salmon and a bag of frozen peas, proving that good food doesn't require expensive ingredients, just thoughtful preparation. Hard-boiled eggs. Farm families didn't just eat hard-boiled eggs as snacks, they built entire dinners around them. With chickens laying year-round, eggs were one of the most reliable protein sources. Farmers would boil dozens at once, using them in everything from egg salad to deviled eggs to pickled eggs that lasted for weeks. The most beloved preparation was eggs in cream sauce, served over biscuits or toast. The eggs were halved and nestled in a rich white sauce made from farm butter, flour, and fresh milk. Sometimes bacon bits or ham scraps were added for extra flavor. Children loved watching their mothers carefully place the bright yellow yolks in the creamy sauce, creating a colorful, filling meal. The key was using truly fresh eggs, ones laid that morning by hens that roamed freely and ate bugs and grass. Those eggs had deep orange yolks and thick whites that held together perfectly when boiled. Egg drop soup. Egg drop soup appears in countless vintage cookbooks as a timeless comfort dish once prepared in nearly every American kitchen. This recipe, originally tucked between yellowed pages of grandmother's handwritten collections, represents culinary wisdom nearly lost to time. In those dog-eared cookbooks from generations past, instructions detailed how to transform humble ingredients into something remarkable by whisking eggs into a simmering broth, creating silky ribbons that danced through the golden liquid. The instructions were charmingly imprecise. A pot of broth heated until steam rises, with eggs added in a thin stream, while stirring gently to achieve the characteristic delicate texture. The result was a soup that combined the rustic simplicity of farm-fresh eggs with carefully crafted broths that simmered for hours. Often, handwritten notes in margins suggested additions, like a pinch of freshly ground pepper or garden-grown scallions to enhance the traditional flavor. This beloved dish filled not just recipe cards, but entire sections of community cookbooks, where each family's variation told stories of regional preferences and heirloom techniques. Modern cookbooks rarely feature this once ubiquitous soup in its authentic form, having replaced it with fusion versions or simplified shortcuts. Today, finding the original recipe requires hunting through antique bookshops or inheriting treasured family recipe collections. In a world of digital recipes and cooking trends, traditional egg drop soup stands as a delicious artifact of culinary history, preserved only in the faded ink of recipe books that once formed the backbone of American home cooking. Mock chicken leg, the ultimate culinary illusion, pork or veal cubes skewered, breaded, and cooked to resemble chicken drumsticks without containing actual poultry. Born in butcher shops where pork cost less than chicken, this creative presentation elevated affordable protein. Meat stacked densely on wooden skewers, dipped in beaten egg, rolled in breadcrumbs or crushed crackers, then pan-fried or oven-baked until golden and crisp. Some cooks seared first before finishing, covered in ovens to maximize moisture retention. The result? Juicy meat surrounded by crunchy coating that made diners forget they weren't eating genuine chicken. Kid-friendly, lunch-appropriate, and fancy enough to feel special despite budget-friendly cost. Typically served alongside mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, or simple white bread, these mock drumsticks satisfied practical needs while providing mealtime enjoyment. Families smiled seeing them appear, appreciating both the clever concept and delicious execution. The contrast between the crispy exterior and tender interior created textural magic that elevated this humble dish to something special. This represented working-class culinary creativity at its finest, transforming affordable ingredients into something that felt like a treat. Salsify. Salsify, also known as oyster plant, was a beloved root vegetable on farms, prized for its unique flavor that supposedly resembled oysters. Farm families grew salsify in their gardens, harvesting the long, thin roots in fall after the first frost had sweetened them. The roots were carefully scrubbed and peeled, then boiled until tender. The most popular preparation was salsify fritters. The cooked roots were mashed, mixed with eggs and flour, then formed into patties and fried until golden.